Welcome to the Daily Edge. Marc Nudelberg, and I am wildly excited to have Laurie Sallarulo on the show with us today. She is a South Florida legend. She is a leader from the profit business to nonprofit business, and she's got unbelievable lessons to drop to us about her leadership journey. Let's find our edge. Let's find our edge. That starts with our affirmation. I own the C words: courage, confidence, clarity, and more. Write the story that is my life. I own them every day. Laurie, welcome to the show.
You couldn't have picked a better affirmation. Thank you.
Well, you have a book coming out soon, some point, right? That's filled with the C words that basically are the words of your journey. But take us back to the very beginning. You're the daughter of a coach, which you and I have talked a ton about. You love sports. You started in advertising. You're the CEO of a very successful nonprofit down here, Junior Achievement. So take us back to the beginning and just kind of give people the backdrop on how Laurie Sallarulo got to where she is now.
Gosh, well, it is a journey, that's for sure. I think you're right. It started with my parents, right? My dad being a coach. I just posted about him. It was the anniversary of his passing last week, and just posted about how he was an amazingly loving man, right? I wanted for nothing as far as love and affection and all those things. But he was also tough.
Yeah.
And he had very high expectations. And he wasn't somebody you didn't want to please, right?
Yeah.
You wanted him to be happy. You wanted him to be proud of you. And I can remember he passed away suddenly. A few days before he passed, we were in New York together. And we were having a Bellini at Harry's Bar. I'll never forget it, to celebrate our trip to Venice. And he said to me, "Do you know how proud of you I am and how much I love you?" And that meant the world to me. And I think it was some of those words were kind of what always kept me going.
Yeah.
Because even though he wasn't here to tell me, I knew.
Yeah.
Right.
And so like that, you've led lots of businesses. You lead Junior Achievement of South Florida now. But I want to dive into that for a second, because I actually had this conversation with both your managers and your directors recently in our leadership trainings, which was, you don't have to be an asshole to be a leader, but you can't be the nice guy all the time either, right? Can't make people feel good all the time. You can't dance around their feelings. So you not wanting to be on it, not wanting to come up short for him or not wanting to meet his standard, was that because you were afraid of his reaction or afraid of disappointing him?
I think afraid of disappointing him.
And how did he let you? Because
his reaction to coming home late was one thing.
Right, yeah.
That was different.
Right.
That I was afraid of.
Right, but coming up short of the standard, what did it feel like, or how did he convey that disappointment to you so that you felt that and it just crushed you?
Like any parent, when they say to their child, I'm kind of disappointed in how this went.
Right.
You felt it.
Yeah.
He didn't have to yell and scream, and he didn't do that. Right. Same thing with the coach. And it's not funny because I have one brother who I think felt that my dad always had unrealistic expectations for him as well. And I think he sometimes thinks that he had them for him because he played ball. And of course, my dad played professional ball. And so you kind of pass your vision on to the next child, right? But my brother didn't understand that he had the same expectations for me, but just not on the field.
Yeah, it was different.
Right? It was a little different. But I still felt that pressure to please him and to be something. What that was, he didn't care.
Yeah.
But be the best you can be at it.
Yeah.
That was the challenge. That was the disappointment. It wasn't that you didn't become the CEO.
Right.
He didn't care.
Well, what's really interesting is that I know you, so I know what the expectation you carry into the work that you do at Junior Achievement, and I know you have that expectation for everybody that you work with, which I think is really hard. Like, I felt it as a football coach, right? You can't want something for somebody that they don't want for themselves, because it just never works out. But particularly in the workplace and in the nonprofit place, which has its own obstacles to begin with, how do you balance that for yourself? How do you manage that for yourself in bringing that expectation to the workplace and conveying that to people?
I think it's probably the thing that keeps me up at night, number one. More than fundraising and all those other things.
Sure.
I think it is the thing that I find the toughest to balance.
Yeah.
I'm an extremely direct person. I'm a New Yorker, right? Yeah. My dad was the same way.
Yeah.
He would tell you, get your head out of your ass, right? And he told the people who work for him that, right? But they respected him, and they knew that his directness was because of those expectations, but also mostly because he cared so much about the students, because he was a dean at a college. For me, but I think times have changed, right? For me, it is always about that. I don't just want those expectations for you. I want them for two reasons. One, because I see it in you. I will not waste my time having a conversation about what I expect from you or that I think you can do better if I don't think you have the potential.
Right.
I'm not going to waste my breath.
Well, and your employees will tell you that you hire good people. So very rarely do you bring somebody into the organization or end up with somebody who doesn't have the potential there. They might not have the expectations for themselves, but they have the potential in there. So to continue to take me down that road of the conversation of like, how do you get somebody else? Can you get somebody else to want it for themselves as badly as you want it for them?
No, I think they have to want it. You can bring the horse to water, as they say, but you can't make him drink, right?
Amen.
Okay, I know that's an old saying, but
Amen.
But it's true. And I think the balance, to your point, is sometimes when you want to be direct, you also want to be caring. And I think sometimes, look, I remember coming up the ladder and people always saying, every course I took, you have to tell people something positive before you tell them something, right, that they need to improve.
Right.
That shit does not work. I mean, I think I can be honest here.
Right.
Because they forgot about what you told them was so good when you tell them what's not so good.
Yep.
So I don't know how to not be direct. I don't know how to not be that. But I tell people up front, it's coming from a place of knowing that you have the potential.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So I think, to your point, finding the balance of that is something I still struggle with and probably always will.
It's because when we talk about this in our leadership trainings, and it's something that I learned it from Chris Voss, and then I also learned it from seeing it just done by example for me so many times. There's a couple things, right? Like, appealing to somebody's identity. You hire people that, at least in their minds, believe they're high performers or want to be high performers. So when you say to somebody, look, I know that you are capable of reaching X, Y, Z, they then go in their brain, right, I am. And then you go, but you're not right now. And you're like, oh, right, I'm not. And so that makes people a little bit more receptive to like, right, that is who I am, but it's not who I'm currently being. So maybe I'm open to that gap right now. But the other part of it, which we got from Chris Voss, is don't pretend, speak directly to what it's going to feel like or what it's going to say, right? Like, people will say, look, I don't want to feel like I'm coming on, too strong for you, or I don't want it to feel like I'm coming down hard on you when you are, right? So instead of saying I'm not trying to, say, look, it's going to feel like I'm coming down hard on you right now. Right? Like, look, this is going to be hard for you to hear. Right. This is going to be a difficult conversation, but I'm doing it because I know you can, or I know you're capable, and here's what we need to talk about. Those little nuances change the dynamic of the conversation so much, which, from having worked with your people, I know that they want that. They're into that. I know that's the culture you've created, which is a C word that I actually want to talk about, because culture is something that's very important to you. You took over a nonprofit that was not overly successful when you got there. They were having some turbulence and some hard times. It had been built by the legends of South Florida, the Styles, the Huizingas, the Levans, the Koenigs. It goes on. The people who were at the very fabric of the building of the community, and you had to come in and change the culture. You had to come in and create new growth. What was that experience like, and how did you do that?
Oof, probably the toughest transition of my career, I would say. Because, and also the organization was going through grief, having lost its leader suddenly. So I can remember, and I will tell you this, one of the most comforting things was the board chair at the time, who was John Ray, who's still on the board, said, what can I do? And I said, you can have my back for 1 year, because people are not going to like the changes.
Right.
I'm going to take my time,
Right.
which is, by the way, not something I typically do. Like you go into an organization, and I've been in enough situations to know pretty quickly what needs to happen, right? But with this one, I knew I needed to work a little bit behind the scenes and be more patient. But John having my back for the first year, right, against anybody who was not willing to change. But it was in the beginning of that, it was making gradual changes. And again, it was working behind the scenes to set things up so that we could make the change.
How did you know that? Help me understand, like, okay, I'm a leader, I'm taking over an organization. Like, this was new for you, right? How did you know that it was going to be slower and that it couldn't be faster? How did you know what work needed to be work? How did you identify those areas?
Well, it wasn't the first time I had walked into an organization that was struggling, right?
Okay,
So it was the third or fourth or fifth time that I had done that. So you can pretty much assess, I think, when you've been in almost every area of an organization or a company, you can assess where the issues are and what needs to happen. In this case, it was a little different. In other cases, like Leadership Broward or 211, I went in and hit the ground running. We had to make changes really quickly. This one, because of the death of Melissa, was a little different. So people were feeling mourning, grief, right? And so it was a little bit different. I knew I had to be sensitive to those feelings. It took everything I had not to hit the ground running, but I did, but behind the scenes. And so working on public funding. Nobody knew what I was doing. Right? But I knew if I could nail the public funding, right, behind the scenes, that would position us for me to start to make those changes and for the organization to succeed again, right, and thrive. It wasn't that it wasn't succeeding, but that it could thrive.
It wasn't reaching its potential, right?
But when you talk about culture, and I think this is so important, that is a C word but like all of them, never goes away. Never. I'm at JA almost 11 years. I am still trying to build the culture. Because every time someone leaves, every time someone new joins, you're recreating and redefining and rebuilding the culture.
It's a body.
Right.
Like, I think that's where people don't understand that it's a living, breathing thing. And like I know, everything you do to help your body be successful is a daily thing. You can't be like, oh, well, we worked out really hard for 3 months, so now I can go the next 6 months without working. It doesn't work that way. You got to do exercise every day. You got to eat the right foods every day. Like, it takes what it takes, and then it takes consistent daily
maintenance,
discipline to it, right? Consistent intention with all of that. So help me understand, because you have a good culture at JA, what the foundations of that culture are for you guys, because you're in a nonprofit space, you serve the kids of South Florida, right? You have a vision of partnering with the best businesses in South Florida to create the right programming. Like, this is a really robust business with a lot of different dynamics, yet somehow you were able to layer in the right things to create a culture to do that. What are some of those foundations for you guys?
I think, well, for sure, one of them is growth and development, right? You have to
meaning individual growth.
Individual.
As a person, I got to want to grow.
As a person. And I think that goes back to, right, in the surveys, the employee surveys, that we hire good people. A big part of that for me is I need to know you want to constantly grow, innovate, change, evolve. I had a one-on-one with somebody not that long ago, and I said, what can we do better? What can we improve on? We could slow down. I was like, okay, let me understand that. Because let me ask you some questions on that, because I hear you and I understand what you mean by that. But is the world slowing down? Is technology slowing down?
Can we really afford to slow down? Can we
afford to slow down? Or will we all be out of a job, right? If we slow down. And so, but I think I knew what they meant, right? It's, where are the opportunities that we really must take? And we're fortunate that I think we are in such a niche. We're in a business of workforce development that right now is the talk of the state, the Department of Education, the federal government, the administration,
You've got a
the
bit of a
school
tailwind
district.
because of
absolutely. And this is our core
market
mission.
fit, if you would,
Right.
and just business understanding,
The
right? You have a good
demand-
market fit right now.
The demand for workforce development and the funding is there.
Right.
So for us, it's okay, this is our core mission. It has been for the 65 years that we've existed in South Florida. How are we going to make sure that we take advantage of that tailwind?
Yeah.
Right? So we do need to make sure that the opportunities we take are the right ones and the ones that are going to take us furthest, right? And that when I mean that, I talk about student impact.
Yep.
What's going to have the greatest impact on the organization? What's going to have the greatest effect on awareness and our reputation and our credibility? What's going to have the greatest effect on our fundraising, right, and our events?
So part of your culture is actually the drive, not just to improve as a person and want to grow as a person, but it's actually willing to be forward thinking and willing to like look at what's coming and make continuous decisions about how do we change with that.
Yeah.
So like, and that's interesting because that's not really something that I think a manager of an organization would be like, oh, I have to be thinking that way in order to fit the culture of an organization. And I don't know that even CEOs who are building the cultures of their organizations think about that as like a foundation. You hear core values and you hear mission statement and you hear like some of these things that don't necessarily apply to the vision of a business. But you're saying that in order to fit the culture of JA's organization, you have to be bought into wherever it goes in the future.
Right.
That's incredible.
You said forward thinking, and it's interesting because I think that is one of the things I would say about 2 to 3 years ago. In my one-on-ones after surveys, which I do every year, I kept hearing about there's too much. We have too much on our plates, and it was a lot of reaction as opposed to planning and proactive. And I just kept hearing it, and I just kept saying to people, okay, yes, there is a lot. There's always going to be a lot.
Right.
I mean, I don't know any CEO whose people are not saying there's a lot on their plates right now, whether you're for-profit or not-for-profit. So that's not going to change, right? But how we are ready for that, how we react to that is where I knew I needed to get this organization in the last 3 years. Because for us to reach the visions, right, and the goals that we have set as an organization, it was my team, not me, who said the ultimate vision was to be the go-to organization for youth workforce development.
Yeah.
You said that.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So,
I didn't give that to you.
I didn't give that to you.
Right.
You said as a group, this is our vision. Well, okay, you can't be back here if that's your vision. And I will tell you that that's a mindset. And I know I'm not preaching to the choir.
Sure.
And bringing you in to work with our managers and our directors, I see such, and I'm not blowing smoke, but I really want to talk about how sometimes you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
And bringing you in to work with our directors, I see a major shift in mindset. Managers too, not as quickly because they're at a different level, right? And they're still learning to be managers. But if I could help them become managers who are forward-thinking managers, whether they stay at JA, they are going to be positioned really well to succeed. I think
1,000%. And so I think kudos to you because you make it a point to invest in the development of your people. You hire people that say, hey, I want to grow. And then you say, great, I'm going to hold you accountable to that by giving you the resources we can to help you do that. Talk to us about your evolution of training and development at JA, because I think now it's more robust than it's ever been, but I want you to tell the story of like bringing in a speaker to book clubs to now all of a sudden you've got somebody who's working with everybody on a monthly basis. How has that evolution and journey gone for you as a leader, saying, how do I find the right resources for them?
Yeah, I always knew we had to invest in it. We didn't always have the resources to invest the way we do today. And by the way, even in a tough year, I'm not cutting that. Right.
Kudos to you.
So there are marketing, awareness, where I got to have consideration. You got to have all that. And coming from the advertising industry, I understand that if you cut those things, when things come back, you're in trouble.
You're behind
if you
the
cut
eight
them.
ball.
Right.
Right.
And same thing with development and leadership. So I think I always knew that. Like you said, it was bringing a speaker and doing a workshop here or there. The book club, I saw some changes in the book club because it was constant and we were having conversations and kind of holding each other accountable, but not to the level of when I finally said, okay, we're going to really invest in this. And I knew from my own coaching and Vistage and working with Steve and things like that, I knew that ongoing, consistent accountability. You could listen to all the workshops in the world, but if nobody's holding you accountable, you go back to the office, you got your notes from the workshop, and guess what happens? They get stuck in that drawer because I can't tell you. Thousands of workshops later, I still find my notes, and I didn't put half of it into action.
Like, that was a good idea. I don't know why I didn't do that.
Why didn't I do that? Why? Because nobody was holding me accountable. I hate to say it, but and so this I knew we needed. And by the way, it was so. It was perfect timing because 2 or 3 years ago, everybody on their evaluations, when we talked about, what do you want for the future? What's your path look like? Everybody was asking for leadership development.
Yeah.
Everybody. Okay, you want it. Well, here it is. But I will tell you, even when you give them what they want, sometimes, so I say be careful what you wish for because now I've given it to you. Well, now you can't come and complain that, this takes too much time. Yeah, well, growth and development don't happen by not investing time.
And then when those meetings happen, right, when those trainings happen, and it's like, well, I'm pushing back on all of them being like, okay, well, what do you own in this? Like, this can't be a vent session. This is not therapy, right? This is coaching. This is different. Like, I need you to take accountability. I need you to take responsibility. There are some times that, like, people in the meeting will be like, I'm not sure I want to be a leader, Listen, what? Now that we've talked about this and now that I don't know that this is for me, right? Which is a great thing.
And it is not for everybody. And that's something that I definitely want to touch on, which is self-awareness.
Yeah.
I'm probably hardest on myself than anybody's ever going to be on me. I beat myself up. I lay awake at night. I dwell on things for far too long.
Sure.
But when I say dwell on it, I don't mean dwell on what that person did. I dwell on how could I do this differently? That extreme ownership that it eats away at me sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's hard to let go of. And that's probably that perfectionist in me, partly, right? That self-awareness part. And I think it's hard, but I also think I am who I am, and I'm only probably going to be able to change so much of it, and tweak how I do things, which I'm constantly trying to work on.
Yep.
But I am constantly amazed, sometimes by the lack of self-awareness.
Yeah.
People want you to be direct. They want to grow, but
they don't want to hear it.
They don't want to hear it.
They don't actually want to hear it.
When they don't want to hear it, I am not liked by everyone, I can tell you.
Sure.
And there are people in this community that worked at JA that do not like me. And part of that is because of that directness.
And look, and I tell this to everybody in your organization, that's a cost of leadership.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be willing to pay that price, that people won't like you for reasons explained and unexplained, right? You're not going to have your opportunity to tell people, why things happen all the time. You're not going to have the ability to explain. These are things that are a cost of what you do. So you got to be willing to accept that. So before we wrap here, because you've put together a lot of really good principles here, and it comes through clear to me that you have this ability to hold a really high standard and keep a consistent drive, but also have like patience and grace, like with yourself. Well, but I hear it, right? It's not, I hear that it's showing up in your life. Is that strictly through experience? Or if there is a young leader who's out there that is like, I want, I have this high standard, and they're beating themselves up and they're not necessarily able to have that patience or that grace, what would you say to somebody who needs that, and how do you do it on a daily basis?
Yeah. How do I do it on a daily basis? Well, I don't know. Sometimes I'm not sure. I think it's just trying to be intentional, as intentional as possible. I will give you grace. I am one of those people that will give you. Mike says to me a couple of times, like, how many times are you going to turn your cheek and let them slap
Right.
you, right? Or kick you in the butt? I give you so many chances to either prove me wrong or to do me wrong.
Yep.
But once I'm done, right? But I think my advice to young people, including my own daughter, is, to have that patience with yourself, but make sure, right, that you are being honest with yourself and direct with yourself as well as others.
Yeah.
That you ask for others to give you feedback, because sometimes, we need to hear that.
Yep.
And I think I would say to them, it's okay not to be perfect. It's hard to not want to be,
Sure.
and to not want to be everything and that everyone wants you to be. And that's something I struggle with all the time. But I don't know that I'm so patient with myself. I do try, but
it sounds like you are, even though
it sounds like
you
I am.
beat
I don't
yourself
have a lot of
up.
patience, really. I think Patrick has helped me with that, because I've had to learn that not everyone is in the same place,
Sure.
and we have to meet them where they are.
And for those who don't know you, Patrick is your
Patrick
special
is my
needs
son who has Down syndrome, right?
Yeah.
And so 33 years of really developing that patience and grace.
Yeah.
I'm not the perfect parent. I'm not the perfect leader. I'm not the perfect partner. I'm not the perfect friend. But I want to be, right? And I strive to be. And so I think having feedback from others, honest feedback, direct feedback, as much as it hurts sometimes.
And opening yourself up to receive that, right?
right.
Like embrace the suck of
Right.
that. Right?
And I might fight it at first.
Yeah,
like I
right.
might say,
Yeah.
no, they're wrong, right? But taking that time to process it is where it really takes time. And then being able to go back and go, I thought about what you said, and you might have been right about that.
Right.
Tell me more. Help me understand more. Give me an example of what I did. And I really want to understand it, because I can't change it if I can't understand it. So
I love it. So you guys do amazing things at Junior Achievement. I'm on the board, right? There's events year round. There's volunteer opportunities to help kids in the community. You are constantly talking about leadership. If people want to connect with you or Junior Achievement, what is the best way for them to get to you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn every day.
Okay.
Learned that from the Nudelbergs, right? So you can always get me on social media, mostly LinkedIn or maybe Facebook, and message me there. Or, of course, my cell, which is 954-326-8586.
Look at that. Cell phone directly to the CEO of Junior
directly to the
Achievement.
CEO. And, of course, at Jay's website, jsouthflorida.org, or on our social media. So I'm open. I love when people reach out. I get people reach out all the time. My kid's going to BizTown, right? Let me know when your child is going. I love popping in and telling them I'm the real CEO, even though they're the CEO for the day. So I just love it. So yes, reach out, come and volunteer, get involved. There's so many ways to. I think what's great about Jay is for you to bring your leadership, your journey to our young people, and I think that's critical for them.
Amen to that. Thank you, Laurie, for joining the show. Thank you for finding your edge with us. Let us know in the comments what C words make up your journey. We'll see you next time.